Today's guest is disrupting an entire industry. He's transforming how food is served, how chefs work, and how people experience luxury.
I never went back to the restaurant for 4 years because it's been good ever since.
From underground chef networks to private high-end dining, he is reinventing what it means to eat well and live better.
You still need a kitchen, you still need to rent space, have dishes, have trucks, all that kind of stuff.
This isn't just about food. It's about freedom, intimacy, and the next era of hospitality.
One of the biggest things is the craving for intimacy, a sense of people wanting to get back to being face-to-face. Zoom meetings are keeping people apart, social media is keeping people apart.
This is Jarret Applewhite. So, today we're at WeWork in Summerlin, and this is around episode 20-something. The reason why my guest today is here is because he was the first one that recognized me publicly, right? We're starting to get out there in the community, and I really like what's happening with this Vegas Voices podcast. One of my favorite cohort of people to give a voice to as entrepreneurs, because they are out there in your city building amazing things, and many times we don't even know because they're just putting their head down and working. And we have had several entrepreneurs already. Our current guest is Jarret Applewhite, and he's been in the hospitality industry in Vegas for a long time. Currently, he's at the helm of Cootoh, which is an app that is a marketplace for private chefs, and so that people can find them. It's kind of like the Uber for that. And then he's also has an initiative called Capture, which has an X in the middle on his domain, and he's gonna talk about this, how Capture helps elevate diversity. So another Renaissance man here with us. Jarret, tell us on a quick note, who are you and what you're focused on at the moment?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on the podcast. Recognizing you in public. I mean, I've seen you before, obviously, and then seeing you pop up was kind of funny. You know, it's like pop up on Instagram. It was like, hey, wait a minute, I've seen this guy, I know this guy from the gym, from WeWork, coffee shops, whatever. So it's nice to see, people doing things in the city and getting some reach out there. But what I'm working on now is it's Cootoh. So it's like you mentioned, a private chef marketplace.
Let's go first. How do you spell that?
Cootoh.
Okay, cool.
So
.com.
.com.
Right,
and
good.
so the word is it's a play on knife for French, the French word for knife. And so basically it's, that's the most important tool for a chef. I've been in Vegas for about 30 years. I'm a new dad. My baby's 10 months old at this point, and that's been awesome. It's also been, working on a baby and then having a baby has been extremely rewarding, I should say.
Congratulations. You were telling me his name. Let's put it out in the public.
Oh, Mars. Mars is his name, yeah.
Why is that?
There's... My wife would tell you different. She loves she just loves the name Mars. I liked it because he's the god of strategy, the god of war. Not because I like war, but because of the strategy that comes behind it, and also the intensity of the planet. So, yeah.
To be an entrepreneur, you have to have both, right? Intensity and, what are you saying?
Strategy.
Strategy,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
Definitely, man.
Yeah, he always had a big vision. So if you've ever read the story of that period of time, or any stories of that period of time, he stands out, definitely.
Cool, man. Let's go back to our origin story. Where does your journey start?
My journey starts, my entrepreneurial journey starts back when I was 17. So I started college when I was 17. And, I was working 2 restaurant jobs at the time and going to school full time. And I went out on a Friday night. Bartender approached me and said, hey, did you bring all these people here tonight? It was just maybe 20 of us, but we kind of got there first. Should have been in the bar at 17, but I had a fake ID.
Oh, wow.
That's just how it worked back then, I don't know how it works now, but and so he said, do you want to bring him here for a bar tab? And I said, sure, why not? For the next times, So next Friday I brought him there, got a $50 bar tab. It was dollar drinks.
Okay.
So it was great. Bought my friends drinks, had drink, did my thing, and of course, what kid wouldn't want to do that if you don't get caught? So,
So that's where it started,
yeah,
hospitality,
that's
man.
kind of how. Well, that's how it started. Yeah, and that turned into my first events company.
Correct. And you were going into UNLV, right, at the time, to
Yeah.
hospitality?
Yeah.
So there's a degree, I guess. Probably UNLV has a lot of those degrees because we have to serve the casino community and all that.
Yeah, hospitality. Well, you mean just the hospitality, the college itself?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Hospitality is I mean, I don't know if we're still number one, but we were at some point. If we're not, then I'd be surprised. But between that and our law school, I think we're still in top three. And so when it came to hospitality, that wasn't the direction I was taking in school at all. It was, hospitality. Back then, you could make, $300-400 a night as a busser at a restaurant.
Well,
And so that was incredible, and so being able to do both, working two jobs, whether it be 5 or 6 days a week, bringing home that kind of money was great. Paid for my college. Yeah, I was a fine arts major, so completely different than what I was doing.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you cater to what your environment gives you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, still, you probably have a lot of that arts major in that other in capture, right? Can you tell us a little bit about capture?
Yeah. So capture is it's derived from just years of experience. So that first business started me off. I mean, I was a graphic designer, and that's where I was going with the fine arts degree.
Okay.
I wanted to study fine arts. I did study fine arts. The design kind of took me into the graphic design, or that design took me into the design world with events. Started with flyers, and started with posters, and started with and went to walls and different things. And so, but at the same time, I was rolling through different things with that first business. So we started doing travel tours to Mexico for spring break and things like that. And so, that evolved. Eventually was recruited to a hospitality company here in Vegas. And so I opened up City Center as director of marketing for a nightclub and a lounge, and eventually started overseeing the restaurants for that hospitality group. And
You mean the whole city center has a hospitality group and they oversee all the restaurants, everything?
No. So it was there was multiple hospitality groups within City Center.
Okay,
But
okay.
I opened up that hospitality group's properties inside of Aria.
Okay.
Yeah. So 2 properties total. They had actually 4 properties in Aria itself. But yeah. So recruited. Did the corporate thing for a couple of years, and it just wasn't for me. Especially after just being independent. That's my back. My both of my parents are very entrepreneurial. My dad's a mechanical engineer, and he's always had something going on the side. Like he built out and sold things in the 70s that had to do with solar in the 70s. And so these were patents. These were tools, whatever they may be. So. So yeah, it's something that's always kind of been in my blood.
Very nice. So you go back from corporate back to entrepreneurial. Let's talk a little bit about Cootoh, right?
Mm.
What was the light bulb moment that inspired you to create the online platform, connecting people with chefs, with private chefs? I mean, it's pretty novel.
Yeah, it started with my own problem. So had a housewarming party. And couldn't find anybody, to really get that done outside of a referral. And even the referral, once they did show up, was terrible. It was a terrible experience. And so the next time I had an event, I called a friend of mine. And so during COVID, after working in hospitality for so long, I befriended a lot of chefs, and during that period, they'd reached out to me, hey, do you know anybody that needs meal prep or anything like that? And I had friends reaching out and say, hey, do you know anybody that can come and cook? Because my kids are home, my husband's home, or, my spouse is home, and I'm going crazy. So I need some time back. And so I matched those people up. And originally, or not originally, but originally I didn't really even put that together as a concept. I was just like, helping friends out. I was busy. COVID actually kind of turned up business for me with capture, and so at that point in time, that's not where my head was. And so later, when I had that housewarming party, I'd reached out to those friends of mine, and I said, hey, can you come do this for me? Do you have time? And with wherever you're working, they said, well, I'm still in the private sector. I never went back to the restaurant. And so that for me was like, wait, you've been out of the restaurant for 4 years? You haven't gone back? No, it was, never went back because it's been good ever since. And so that to me was like, okay, let me take a look at this. Talked to a buddy of mine, this one too, this one. They all wanted to start bigger catering companies. So I looked at the dynamics of that. And, it's a very heavy dynamic in the sense of, it's not much different from a restaurant. The four walls, you still need a kitchen, you still need to rent, a space, have dishes, have trucks, all that kind of stuff, logistics, sales team. And, at that point, I had actually just helped build a marketplace for a client of mine. And so I looked at, I was talking to one of them and they said, oh yeah, I just had a private chef gig tonight. I was like, what do you mean a private chef gig? What's the difference on that? What's going on with it? He's like, there's, with catering, you do a lot of the majority of the time, you do a lot of preparation ahead of time. You bring the food. But private chef gig, we do everything on site. And we use majority of what's on the house, and it's everything's made in front of you basically. So you're bringing a chef's table experience to them. And you think about that, and it's a lot more lightweight. And so that's when it kind of clicked for me, like, why are we not, catering company, what are we doing with that? We don't need to do, it's just, it can be so much, the flywheel's a lot easier when it comes down to something when you can make it frictionless like that versus a catering company. So, yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but.
Totally. So many of the hospitality businesses at the current model revolve around going to a restaurant. Why is there that demand or enough demand for you to be able to create a marketplace on a chef comes to you model?
That's a good question. I think one of the biggest things is the craving for intimacy right now. Well, there's a couple factors. There's that, in this time and space with the world, we've gotten to the space of, just being so far apart. Zoom meetings are keeping people apart. Social media is keeping people apart because they feel like they're connected. But I think it's creating a sense of people wanting to get back to being face to face. I think people are craving that. Another reason is the intimacy of being in someone's home is just different. Whether it be for business, whether it be for pleasure, just friends, getting together and having your own community is needed. So, and the third is, I think we've gone through, if you look at the history of restaurants and hospitality, it started with kings and queens that had chefs, right? And then it went to, these communal spaces that were people, that's where trade started, and that was in the, 17, 1800s. And so that's literally breaking bread, right? And so you come into that, and then you come into restaurants to the 1900s, and you come into the 2000s, and it's the e-commerce era, where it pulls us further and further apart, right? You get these items that come straight to your door. You don't have to say anything to anybody. You have it with your family, and maybe you go to your room, and this one goes to their room. You sit on the couch and you eat. Everyone's apart. And so, and now we're in the experience era, where across the board, everybody wants. You look at Las Vegas alone. Gaming is kind of a fun experience, but people are struggling in the sense that, when I say people, I should say casinos are struggling in that sense. People aren't gambling as much, but they're coming for the experiences, and hopefully, all these companies, all these casinos are waiting for them to actually drop something on that table, or at the very least, hey, they're buying a hotel room. But you see where we're going with the city right now, and so I think I don't want to say we're falling into that trend, but we're adding to it. We're taking that level of hospitality aspect and democratizing it and bringing it to your home, and we make it easier. Because people want to host. It's just daunting at the end of the day.
So you mentioned the word that we're becoming more of an experience type. So how do you see Vegas transforming in the general sense as an experience economy? As people coming to the experience, is it like they'll come for the show or for the different conventions, or how is that morphing around? What do you see that morphing into?
Yeah. I think, and it's interesting you mentioned conventions. Just when you said that, there's someone that I think that you could talk to, that maybe he's got a great TED talk specifically about Las Vegas. Was rooted in Las Vegas, and it talks about the fun economy, and the way that kind of parlays into Vegas. And going back to that, what you mentioned about conventions is when I worked in restaurants on the Strip, like you have the seasons of people that come through town. You have the Europeans that come through, the Australians, different times of year they have their holiday, and then you have the various conventions. So you get these different types of these different profiles of people, and the experiences were the dining experiences, and before it was the extras were Cirque du Soleil, those types of things. So now that we've morphed into this different city of entertainment through concerts, that's been blowing up in the last 15 years.
Sure.
Of course, obviously the sports teams that are coming, and then now we've got that pinnacle of entertainment, the Sphere, on the Strip now too. These things that kind of like these massive things that pull people in the masses, like I think are great for the city, and so. It's been something for me that I've been kind of craving for my entire life of living here. So I'm from Los Angeles, but I've been here since '95, and growing up here, there was always this kind of exodus of friends that would happen every 2 years because there wasn't enough culture, their family didn't feel that there was community here, and so there would always be that kind of, like I said, there'd be this person that would be gone, they'd be here for a couple of years, and then that. Now we're starting to see some like traction. There's people that are being retained. It's not as much of a I can't think of the word right now, but people. What's the word? I want to say not affluent, but either way. But yeah, it's keeping. I think something that's made a big trigger for that has obviously been the Golden Knights. You see, you're in this area in Summerlin, everybody's wearing a BGK,
Sure.
sweater, hat, whatever it may be. But like that inspired my first two companies, was again bringing people together, and I guess that's kind of what's happening now. It's the same thing, bringing people together so you can have some collective energy. Yeah.
That makes total sense. Pendulums can't just break. The pendulum went all the way to isolation. Now people are craving that.
Yeah.
And with that, could you walk us through a typical use case, whether a busy professional or needing meal prep, or someone hosting a VIP dinner party? How does Cootoh make their life easier?
The most typical use cases right now are special occasions, birthdays, anniversaries, and really it's bringing a full-on customized restaurant to your house.
Wow.
Right now, and within 4 clicks, you can actually get an experience that's kind of tailored to you. And if you want to go to fully customize that, then it just takes a few more, a conversation, and then we tailor it to you. You speak directly with a chef; they handle everything. Everything's kind of very transparent. That's another thing with the industry right now, is if you go on Google, you've got to search through these guys, hope to God that they're good, and that they're background checked, that they're safe. They're going to be in your house for 5 hours, so you want to make sure that's okay. But yeah, other than that, other than the kind of occasions, these dinner parties, things like that, the next cases are mostly going to be around like business dinners that are, where executives or sales teams are inviting out whoever they may be.
And these could be from ultra expensive to what are the price ranges? Is it very expensive to start, or could you start with something simpler?
So yeah, we've got something on the platform that's as low as $90 a person.
Okay.
And every chef has their minimum set based off of what they want to serve. But we've done something as large as bringing a 200 pound tuna to someone's house, flown straight in from Japan. That day, that morning, and they go from head to tail, 8 courses, and an incredible celebration for 60 people, And again, we just made it easy. We don't do any of the design or anything like that, or the event design, but we make sure the food is on point. And if you want something even more exclusive, you can make that happen. So that is a much higher price point, obviously, but yeah.
That's amazing to know, because I'm sure that there's a demand for it too. So marketplaces thrive on supply and demand. How does Cootoh attract and retain quality chefs, and how do you ensure a steady flow of customers looking for the experiences? How do you balance those two sides?
Yeah. I mean, we started off with supply. You know, I don't know if you've heard the chicken and egg problem, but for marketplaces specifically, it's you know, you've got to balance both, right? And so with supply, we just literally went through the same process we would if we were hiring at a restaurant, interviews, in-person interviews, etc. And
so
actually,
it's not easy to get on the platform. Like, you would really have to be the real deal.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. You've got to be a solid chef, and right now we've got about an 8% acceptance rate.
Okay.
And even went through the process in a couple other cities too, just to kind of see the difference. You know, so that was fun. But yeah, definite process between that. Yeah, I forgot what the question was.
So the question was, how do you get your chefs, and how do we
maintain the demand?
Yeah.
So demand for us has been, so how do we balance the supply and demand? Yeah. First off, the supply, once we've put them through that process, I mean, 90% of the chefs that work with us right now they're already in the private sector, so they understand the dynamics of this. Their biggest problem is marketing and sales and admin work. They don't have time to keep up with that. They just want to stay in the creative space, and so we've actually created an AI co-pilot for them. So that AI co-pilot handles, you know, everything from menu iterations to helping them close with sales, helping them with customer experience, and follow-ups. So, right, they've got their own independent pages that live on the site, and they've got their own independent AI co-pilot that goes along with that. So, you know, it took a while for us to get there, but, you know, we started off with that supply, and we just said, okay, we're just going to give you a bunch of bookings, and then we're going to start adding some more chefs. And once we get to the point where we can't, you know, if we call you on a Friday and you're not available, or if we call the entire list on a Friday and no one's available, we need to get a couple more. So we have backups, right? And then we started getting, you know, unique requests for, like, you know, authentic Malaysian, authentic, you know, Filipino, things like that. And so we reach out to different chefs just to figure that out. You'd say, yes, we could do it, and we go figure it out, you know, as long as we had enough time. So it was, when it comes to demand, it's majority of it's been word of mouth so far. You know, and just honestly, me being out there networking and things like that, letting people know what's going on. Things have changed since then. We're doing a lot more outreach, and a lot of just good partnerships. So, you know, whether it be with agents, whether it be with different businesses around town, things like that.
Okay, cool. So now you have dominated the local marketplace. What happens to this now? And you've been able to navigate through word of mouth and conversations. Mm-hmm. What happens when you start expanding to a national marketplace?
We haven't dominated it yet. I mean, that's just it. Is that's what we're, you know.
Well, you got your footprint.
We've got our footprint. Yeah, we've got our footprint. Got a solid foundation. You know, we're staged to grow. And so, what does it look like on a national level? You know, we've got our next 5 cities earmarked. The biggest thing, you know, for us is, you know, the greatest thing, the thing that I mentioned about the AI co-pilot and these pages that are dedicated to those chefs is we're not necessarily, we don't need to be focused here. We can scale a lot faster that route. This is something that's new. We're within the last month, and so we've just been kind of testing it with these core group of chefs that we have in these 3 cities, and building more data, refining the product, and then we're going to go to market even harder with it.
What are the 3 cities?
Right now, Phoenix, Arizona, and Tulsa, Oklahoma, and here.
Okay. Are there any verticals where you see more private demand for chefs, like, I don't know, real estate or corporate retreats or?
Absolutely. And so that's been a part of the balancing demand and supply, right? I think it's our role to, as a platform, to kind of, you know, guide, but at the same time get out of the way. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, you know, we can't determine what demand is all the time and say this is what we're going to do. I mean, we could always say that, we only do dinner parties through this platform, and we'd probably be pretty successful. That's the majority of what we focus on right now in terms of messaging. But if someone comes through the platform and says, hey, I just want a cooking class, then okay, we'll send that to a chef, but that's not something that we're going to push. But I think at this point, the focus for us is just building a better product, keep focusing on distribution here, and when it comes to growth, it's going to be more so focused on the B2B side. So not necessarily focused on the cities with demand until we get that demand from chefs. Okay, well, hey, you know what? I'm in the LA market. I really need more demand. But at this point, if they've already got their book of business, we're here to help them, increase their efficiency at the end of the day. Yeah.
Very cool. So give us an insight on how you monetize the marketplace. Is it through commissions or bookings, subscription, memberships, combination of fees?
Yeah, so it's no subscriptions. It's just through a commission that's built into the final cost. Just like you look at like a Southwest. Well, maybe it's Southwest not anymore, but it used to be
Well.
used to be transparency,
Mm-hmm.
and so it would be all inclusive of bags, right? It's the same thing here. So you don't have to worry about a nickel and dime at the end where these got this fee, this fee, this fee. If it's $3,000, it's $3,000.
That's very cool. Cool, man. Let's get you some investors now. I hear you're opening a pre-seed round of 1.5 million in January. Or was it? No. So
No.
next January. So we're a few months before that, middle of the year probably.
We're actually opening it after spring break, so in April, this month.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, the internet lied for us then. So what will those funds be used for mostly? Product enhancement, marketing, team expansion?
Yeah. Well, we've got a great team locked in. I should say locked in the sense of, they're working for equity at this point. So part of those funds will be going into locking in everybody with, with small salaries, and then beyond that, marketing, branding, full market penetration in Vegas, mostly focused on experience-led marketing. Of course, diving into search and everything too. Nice.
What qualities do you look for in an investor or a strategic partner?
For investors, for me, it's I'm looking at investors in the sense of like who can bring value to the table and who is this valuable for. This again, Cootoh is an experience, but it can also be a tool.
Okay.
And I think to the right person, to the right investors, they can also. It's like, why not make your experience an investment? So that type of person, that type of profile, I think is a perfect fit for us. It may be. I think Las Vegas is a perfect market to find that as well. Whether it be, more angels and family offices versus a venture capital firm. Different expectations, But yeah.
Cool, man. Are you subjecting to Angel and B? I know that group. They're pretty cool.
Well, that's Angel and B. We've gone through their accelerator. We went through their accelerator last year, so we are submitting to them, though. Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool. Cool, man. So startups rarely follow a straight line. What are some tough lessons you've learned along the way that help you shape your leadership style?
Yeah, when working in a restaurant as a manager, as a person that's in front of house, I think some things that have come back up while building this company have been just the fact that you can't forget the personalization that can make you stand out. That sort of thing it goes so much further with customers. I mean, that's why we have repeat customers. That's why we have members now. The fact that I still get on the phone with everybody who books, at least I try to. I say, hey, you know what, would love to jump on a quick phone call with you, just get some feedback. That sort of thing is, maybe that's classic Vegas hospitality too, is to be able to just I think that's what's gotten us to the point. Some lessons along the way were, it's just like, well, if I'm a tech company, maybe I don't need to talk to these people.
I mean,
And that
there's
was
a
a
point
rude
where
awakening.
you won't be.
What's that?
I mean, at scale, you won't be.
Yeah.
Right now, you're here. And
Yeah. I mean, maybe, I think I look at some, well, yeah, me personally, right? But I look at some of these large companies like FreshBooks. I don't know if you're familiar, but they're like
Yes.
a competitor to, for those who might know, it's a competitor to like QuickBooks, right? When you call FreshBooks, or when you called FreshBooks like a year or 2 years ago, someone would pick up and they'd be like, hey, this is Greg. And I'd be like, wait, did I call the right number? But yeah, this is Greg from FreshBooks. How can I help you? They were calm, they were relaxed, they were, it's such an intense thing sometimes for certain entrepreneurs to work with, their QuickBooks. And so they have terrible customer service over here. I get this delightful conversation with this guy.
Right.
That kind of feeling that you get where they immediately like lift the veil is like the experience that I'm like, I think we want to continue to do at scale.
Wow,
right? And so now they got purchased and they don't do that anymore. And I literally do not work with FreshBooks anymore because of it. Because now you call them and they call you back 3 hours later.
That's very true. When they were growing, I remember they invited like Vegas users to a dinner in Maggiano's here, and I was there for FreshBooks.
So, oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, hospitality.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope you can keep it up, like when it scales. Because if not, I'm gonna see Jarret AI answering the phone.
100%. You know I'm working on it.
Of course you are. Wouldn't expect anything less, right? Anyways, so right now, like the thing is marketplaces, right? You found a little niche, but if someone is just starting out and considering launching in a competitive vertical, what guidance would you give them based on your experiences so far?
Focus on one side first of the marketplace. You need one side to be able to attract the other.
So what did you focus on?
I focused on supply first.
Okay, on the chefs?
Yeah,
All right.
I focused on the chefs first. I got up a quick landing page that made us look, good and professional. Put out some job posts and onboarded supply. Literally, a part of onboarding is we put you 4 chefs in a room in the kitchen, sometimes 6, and you don't know your ingredients before. And so you show up with your knives, your Cootoh, and you have 90 minutes to put up 2 dishes, and we're judging you. We have an entire scorecard, built out for this. So, and if you pass, you pass. If you don't, you don't. But and so that was the biggest thing that we focused on was how are we going to focus on supply, and that took a couple tries and everything, and then we focused on, and then we started driving demand. But marketplaces are hard. So the first thing I would say is really understand what you're getting into because you have 2 customers, and there's a balance at all times. For me, I love that because I love it. I mean, it's a hell of a challenge, man. And I think if you could, maybe the term's not right now, but I think ideally you could even have 2 CEOs, like a co-CEO in the sense of having 2 people that are focused on the platform for both sides. So if you have somebody that could be your partner for that, go after it.
Very cool. All right, man, I'm going to get you with some rapid fires. That okay?
Yeah.
Nice. Favorite dish for a private chef to cook?
Oh, man, favorite dish for a private chef to cook?
I guess it's your choice, whatever.
Yeah, so for me, I think there are a couple of desserts that I've seen come out that are just, man, there's a chocolate espresso creme brulee with a hint of orange that some of these guys do. That's just one chef that does that and is incredible. I love the live tuna, or the live, not tuna, but the live sushi. That's one of my favorites. I mean, when you seriously see everything basically from soup to nuts and everything's being created to the point where that fish there's no waste. That's really cool to see that done in your house, and I mean, it's
so they come in with a full fish and all that.
Yeah,
right?
it's, I mean, I'm not that guy that's I'm gonna go fishing and then cook up this entire thing. I can cook.
That'd be cool.
But I mean, to be able to kind of have that full experience. Yeah, I think that would be my favorite dishes. Probably the desserts or the live dish,
sushi.
The live
sushi.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, most innovative hospitality trend that you're watching right now.
Most innovative. I think that personalization. So Growth Holdings or whatever they're called. They've also got the Live Homes in Vegas. I'm not sure if they're outside of Vegas, but they're actually building a hotel off of Russell and something. And so I really like what they're doing in terms of personalization because it kind of parlays off of what we're doing too. But they're doing it with brick and mortar. And so like when you come back to that hotel technically it sounds like it remembers your preferences, right? So same thing happens with us. It's you come back to the platform, we remember exactly what you like, and so if you're having different people over, we can even take, or you have the same group of people, we can even remember them.
Oh, so then like an event and everything, it invites them and puts
right. And so exactly, and so the same thing goes with this hotel, and so I think that's that's the true luxury when you step back into personalization. I mean, when you can do that at scale I think that's really cool.
That's super cool. That's a cool trend. Never thought about it.
And they're doing that in their homes too. I mean, their homes are like fully advanced. They're basically AI homes. So, yeah.
Very cool. All right. One book or podcast that you'd recommend to every founder?
Book. I think book would be Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. As someone who gets caught up in wanting to do, or just like maybe just doing everything himself, it'll definitely help you out, man.
Even that personalization,
what's that?
Even that like one-on-one that you're always doing.
Yeah. But hey, like I said, that's why I'm working on that AI agent of myself. Synthesia, I think it's how you pronounce it, is a hell of a product. So yeah, Buy Back Your Time for the book. Podcast. I mean, I listen to a lot of marketplace podcasts, but I love products. What is it called? Lenny's podcast. And so he features a bunch of different types of entrepreneurs, people who come from different organizations. There's a lot to learn from them because most of them mostly come from technology companies. But he was a product manager at Airbnb and various other things, and so some of the products that I'm sure people use today, if you work in technology, you don't, are guests on that podcast. And they share things about their personal lives, of course, too, but it's mostly about business. And so a lot to learn there.
Cool. Best business or life advice you've ever received?
That's a good question. I think I've said this before, but how on an airplane they say put your safety mask on first before you help somebody else. Basically that. Make sure you're safe before you help somebody else. Because if you don't do this for yourself, then how do you expect to help them unless you really are that person, right? But I think that's one of the biggest things for life and for business.
How does that apply? Like, be safe, have safe finances before you jump into entrepreneurship?
I mean, shit. That parlays to don't quit your day job. You know what I mean? Take the leap.
Okay.
Not just that, but like that's just an example. Mm-hmm. Some people, and don't get me wrong, because I've been the one that's always taken the leap. I left that job with the corporate job, and I just went straight into entrepreneurship. Said, hey, I was young at the time, but my mother actually worked at the unemployment agency. So she's like, you can get unemployment. I'm like, nah, I don't need that. I got money saved. We'll do this. You know what I mean? And so I just didn't do that. So just take the leap, but also, if you can, like, make sure that you have your own shit together. Your headspace is there. And when I say, like, keep your mask, make sure your mask is on. Like, if your headspace is there, then your mask is on. But you also, if you have other ones to protect, keep that in mind.
And I'm not sure Michael DeLuca's quote or what he was saying completely the opposite, that if I have to encourage you or if I have to tell you you're going to be safe, yeah, no, this is not for you. Like
Yeah.
when people asking for advice, so
Yeah, well,
on starting, on doing.
Well, that's what I mean. I think we're saying the same thing in a
Okay.
sense. Yeah, I think it's like if I have to tell you you're going to be safe, because I don't. I think I thrive in it. At the end of the day, like for me, it's about resilience, you know. So like, whether you're safe or not, like it's kind of like, you know, I'm one of those people that will never not work because I like being in a state, you know, a state of just growth and learning and changing and pivoting. So.
We're very much the same. That's the way it goes in marketing agencies, which I run.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
very cool, man. So last rapid fire one, a word that describes your entrepreneurial mindset.
I think resilience.
I thought you were gonna say Mars.
Mars, yeah. Yeah. No,
Combative and strategic.
combative, yeah. Yeah, no, resilience.
You don't
for sure.
give me that. Yeah, you don't give me that vibe. You're not. You're a good human, brother. Cool, man. So, what can we expect to see from Cootoh in the next 6 to 12 months? We gotta work on that, because yeah, it's a interesting pronunciation.
Yeah, yeah. Next to 6 to 12 months, we'll be doing various pop-ups throughout the city. You'll definitely start to see some more branding in town. More.
What does that mean?
activations.
Are you gonna like bring 3 or 4 chefs and just pop up a restaurant somewhere? Or?
Yeah, so we do pop-ups.
Okay.
We do pop-ups at like speakeasies in town.
Okay.
Different, you know, luxury homes and things like that. And so we'll be doing more of those for sure. Expect more pop-ups during like, you know, big weekends like F1, things like that too. And then we'll be partnering with a lot of restaurants in terms of just, again, you know, this Michelin experience is coming to this coffee shop. You know, little fun things like that you may, you know, maybe at Vesta. Who knows?
That'd be great. That'd be great. We want to have Jarret on the podcast. He'll come over soon.
There
You
we
know
go.
Jarret, the owner?
Yeah.
He's pretty cool. All right, man. For prospective customers or private chefs or investors who want to learn more about Cootoh, where should they go?
For prospective customers, you can just go to the website, or you can email me at jarret@cootoh.com.
Okay.
But yeah, the website is Cootoh, COOTOH.com, and for investors, just reach out to that same email. I can shoot you over the deck and all the financials, the data room, all of that.
Awesome, man. What's the minimum financial unit to get going?
We're doing 25K minimum.
25K. Perfect. So thanks for sharing all your journey as an entrepreneur. Thank you for being here. Is there any last shout outs or anything that you want to say to our audience?
I think this is going wider than the Vegas community, but I mean, just keep it up. We got to keep moving with this, with keeping the community strong. So, something that I took away from, you know, going through an accelerator for Cootoh was when I lived in another city was the community, that the aspect that they had there around startups and entrepreneurship was so strong that you felt the momentum when you went to that area, when you were in that city. And what I mean by keep it up here is, you know, we're still young. Let's keep this kind of collective society kind of mindset going outside of, you know, to the point where we're not just focused on hospitality. We're actually building different industries here so people can stick around. It's not just every man for himself, you know, so that when the next thing does happen, the next COVID does happen, when the next 2009 happens, we're not just flatlined. We can come together because we own our own environment.
That's great, man. You're giving me more inspiration to continue this little initiative called the Vegas Voices for the community. It can be a community movement. So thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing Cootoh's continued success and your impact in our community.
Yeah, let's do it, man. And let's do a dinner on the podcast sometime. If you want to have a guest, or you want to have multiple guests, maybe we can do a big round table. I'd love to do that. That'd be fun.
You know what? We'll set it up. Thank
Perfect.
you so much.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.